got 25 minutes. We got to go. Hey,
Happy
what is
Wednesday.
going on? Happy hump day, everybody. All right.
That's my camel. That's my make-believe camel.
So for everybody who's live with us on YouTube for the first time, you can actually catch us live as well on IG. So you guys can share that there. If there are people who you'd want to get this type of information to, if you're familiar with the type of content that we provide, then you know that we're always looking to add value. I love how Janelle calls it, the ugly come up. We're here to discuss. And in continuing with this month's theme of mental health awareness, again, a mixed, the second time, but a lot of tragic things going on around the world. Condolences to anyone, that's been affected by what's happened. I believe it was in Texas. It hopefully every Wednesday it's not going to be us having to come to you guys having to throw something like that out there. But again, condolences, prayers for the families affected. And again, anyone that's just been affected by just a lot of people who are going through some stuff. I don't know what that young man is battling. Certainly the families are, the one that would need the love now, but whatever he's going through, a lot of people are going through some stuff. So condolences to, again, them and anybody affected by this. All right, let's jump into it, Janelle. So let's get that drum roll. We can get into today's topic. Today's going to be a good one. So boom.
Today's topic is, could trying to get it perfect be affecting your mental health?
I love this.
And so, it's so funny because normally the focus is on business, but I thought it was interesting that it doesn't even say like to your business. It's just mental health, period. I think we've established well enough in the past 5 to 6 episodes that we've had that your mental health does impact your business. And I think it's because it impacts you overall. And wherever you are, there you are, right? Like, it's not like you can escape who you are or who you are just because you take your place. You take yourself out of one place and put yourself in another place doesn't mean that like all of a sudden you go away, right? And that includes your mental health. So if your mental health is not doing well in your business, it's probably not doing well with your family, it's probably not doing well if you play sports or, if you go to the gym or like whatever, wherever else you show up, even on vacation, right? Your mental health isn't good. You can be on vacation and wherever you are, there you are. Your mental health doesn't automatically get better because you're on vacation, right? So I just, I think like we've established it definitely impacts your business. And I think it's really cool that we're just talk about mental health.
No, for real. And specifically what comes up for me as as we look at the question is this idea of what it means to be perfect, right? And I think specifically even in just our industry, this idea of, general people, everyday average people going from, not necessarily ever having to promote a product before, ever having to pitch to somebody before, ever having to maybe market anything. And then how do you then there's an echo. I'm not sure if it is just me. All right, let's see. Thank you guys. Let me see if it's me. All right, let us know if their echo is gone. Specifically, it's to me this idea of what it looks like to be so concerned about how it sounds when you first go out and reach out to your friends. I remember for me, the night I got involved in this industry, I was told to make a list of my top 10. Actually, it was top 20. But that night, the only assignment was I had to call at least 10 people and share with them my idea, product or service. At the time, it was a service. It was a service product. And so I went home. My agreement, again, guys, I unreluctantly wanted to get involved, but needed to financially get myself, in a better place, like many people who get involved in this industry. And so, I went home with that list. I was incredibly motivated. And by number 7, if you ever heard the story, by number 7, I was completely dejected One guy had told me I was going to jail, wrote me a very strongly worded email that was stating why I was going to jail for showing him and taking part in this industry. A couple other people just said it just wasn't for them. By number 7, I was completely dejected, said, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to tell the person who enrolled me tomorrow that I wanted my money back. And thankfully, because of the following day going in, letting that person know, they had more conviction in what we were building. We called number 8. Number 8 turned into well over 3 to almost 400 people in our organization. From that next person, literally number 8 led to, hundreds of people at some point being in our organization. And so I go back to my original point of just this idea of, if it doesn't go exactly how we thought it go. I thought, guys, I was going to enroll 7 people that night. They were like, reach out to your top 10 people. Like, who are your go-to people? And, even though I personally don't think I had a lot of close friends, I thought that between this top 10, I was at least going to have 6 enrollments. And it sadly did not turn out that way at all. And I was ready to quit an industry that has completely transformed my life. And it just goes to, again, to show, like, how many people, because you're afraid of not, or how it's not looking perfect, your story is not going great, that you may be ready to walk away from something that could transform your life. And it's not with all the things that maybe we would all hope to get. The money's not all there yet. Certainly the massive organization isn't there yet. But I can tell you that who I am now compared to when I started this industry, like really really actively started working at building this, is a completely different man. And I'm grateful for that. So, and I know, Janelle, for you, this idea, you work with students and things like that, you see perfectionism come up maybe a lot more often in what you do. And I believe you're actually writing something that touches on a little bit of how this could be affecting us in the
Yeah,
corporate.
100%. You're absolutely right. I see it everywhere.
Wow.
Once once you're aware of something, you can't go back, or once the mind expands, it can't contract, I think is the
Yeah, yeah,
actual
yeah.
thing. So now I'm just very aware of it. I'm aware. So I wrote a book. Really excited about it. It's in editing. I've got it with editors. We're editing it. The
Very
goal
close
is
to
to get
finish.
it published, in the summer. So I'm looking at June 30th. So look out for that when that drops.
Oh, birthday
And
coming in.
I'm really excited about it because I have recently done my own soul searching about and thinking about my own shame and where it's shown up in my life and how it's led to poor decision making, especially in particular. I pay attention to relationships, so romantic relationship, poor decision making, and that and then understanding the shame more, really understanding it, breaking it down, unpacking it. What does it look like? How does it show up in my brain? Could I have been having these shame thoughts from even when I was a little kid, right? And where did
Okay.
that come from? And really trying to really break that down and understand it was really important to me. And so because I was able to explore that within my own story, I'm hoping that by sharing it and sharing how to, what I like to call is Brene Brown's way of calling it, is shame resilience, right? So we gain some resiliency about the shame. Because here's the thing about shame. It's a normal human reaction. Everyone will feel shame. If they haven't already, you're gonna feel it at some point in your life. As humans, it's a natural feeling that we have, or an emotion that we have. And so some people get stuck in it though. And that's a
Okay.
difference. So sometimes you get so stuck in it that it can actually impact your decision making,
Okay.
including in business and everywhere else. And some people are able to get out of the spiral of the shame much quicker. And so that's what I call resilience. It's just the ability to be in it and then be like, this isn't I'm in shame right now, which is not a healthy place to be. And then be able to bounce back and kind of get back on a more mentally healthy path. So anyway, I say all that to say, one of the things that was interesting is in my study of shame and understanding it better, I came across perfectionism. And I think that in business, I mean, for those of you who know, I also teach students at Sarah Lawrence College. And what we've seen is that we've seen a lot of students want to be perfect. Well, I don't want to do this thing until it's perfect. Can anyone out there relate? If you can relate, put a fire emoji or a heart
Yeah,
or something
for
in
real.
the chat. Well, I don't want to do this until it's perfect. I can't really do this. I want to make sure that it's absolutely perfect. If I can do it perfectly, say it perfectly, be perfectly, then I will protect myself from possible judgment of
Yeah.
others that could make me feel bad as a person,
Yeah.
right? Or it can shield me from people knowing who I truly am, which is I'm not good at this. I'm like totally an
Mm-hmm.
imposter, right? So one of the things so Brene Brown, for those of you who don't know, she is a researcher in shame. She got her PhD and has done a lot of research on shame. And one of those things I love that she has said, and I said this with shout out to Annie Deering, awesome Annie who came on with us, and we
Yeah,
talked
great
about
show.
this, that shame. So you can have perfectionism, but what happens is perfectionism is in the passenger seat, but shame is
Who's
driving the car.
driving the car? Yeah, good
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that was
And
really powerful.
yeah, the first time I heard her say that, I was like, woo.
Yeah, shout out to Annie on that one.
We're like, well, no, actually, it was Brene Brown who said it. I think we just were
Oh, oh,
talking
oh,
about
oh,
it.
oh, oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, no, this is definitely, I want to give credit to where it's due.
Oh yeah, we don't
Brene
want
Brown definitely
Renee's
said,
people to
well,
hit us up
yeah,
legally.
right? That was Brene Brown. So yeah, so while perfectionism is in the passenger seat, shame is driving the car. And what's interesting about that is that I started to really look at that because I feel like people recognize perfectionism way more than they are readily able to identify shame. And so they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm a total perfectionist. It's this thing that we say, right?
Oh,
Like
okay,
it's almost
okay.
like cool to be a perfectionist, right? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
a
something
perfectionist.
noble about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, right. Well, I don't know. I don't know where that culture comes from. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that is. And that there's probably a ton of people who are doing research on that. But what I can tell you is that it is here. It is something that we say, and I think we say it without even realizing what we're saying. So as humans, we cannot be perfect. It is literally impossible to be perfect. Like
Mm.
humans by definition are imperfect. That's what makes us beautiful is our imperfections, right? And
No.
so when you set out to do something perfectly, you're already setting yourself up for failure, right? Because you know you can't do something perfectly. So because it's impossible. There's no way that we can ever do anything perfectly. So you're going out there trying to do something perfectly, but really just to hide. It's a shield. You're trying to protect yourself from some sort of judgment. And here's the thing: when you go out and you do the thing and you don't do it perfectly and you mess up and you're like, you know who's doing the biggest judging?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. Let's
It's not other people, it's
bef-
you. You're like, "Oh my god, I'm awful. I'm a
before
horrible
we go
person." This is
deeper.
what shame sounds like. Shame
Ho-
is
Hold on,
oh,
Jay. Just to get to Janice's comment and question,
oh,
and then we'll
awesome.
go a little bit deeper. So, as a college professor, of which I am one, I love that. Shout out to Janice on that.
That's
How
right, Miss
does
Janice.
one balance that for that student for students? Excuse me.
Oh, that's a great question, actually, Janice. I'm so glad you asked. So I actually did a workshop with my students. If any of my students ever watching this, like, huge shout out to you guys because you like did the work with me, and I appreciate all of you for really like owning it and like sitting with it and like doing the work. There are three main things that I think are really helpful. The first is to just make a contract with yourself or others in the room that you are going to be imperfect, that you just
Mm,
are, like I am, right? Like I am imperfect, but I'm still lovable, I'm still amazing, I'm still worthy, I'm still enough, right? It doesn't detract from any of those things. We're just imperfect, right? And so just having the awareness to understand what that really means was the first step. So we went through that. We did a contract with everyone in the room. We made a contract to agree that we're all agreeing that we're imperfect, which means that you're imperfect too. My classmates are imperfect as well. My professors are imperfect as well. And so you're not expecting perfection from neither yourself nor those around you, right? And so that kind of levels the playing field. Everybody understands what the expectation is, even of themselves and their classmates. And then the second thing is to build shame resilience. That's the second way to deal with it. So it's in order to build shame resilience, there are a couple of things that are really important to do. You don't have to do them in a particular order, but it's important that these things get done. So one of them is just recognizing it. So we did a whole activity about like, what does shame feel like? Because a lot of times people don't even recognize that they're in shame, right? And people would say like, shame is when your face gets all hot, right? And you're just like, ah, or shame is that pit in the feeling of your stomach, like, oh, like I don't belong here. I'm an awful person. I'm a failure. So knowing what it feels like on your body is just as important as being able to understand when you're saying it to yourself. So when you say things like, oh, no one can ever like trust me with this, like I'm a failure, I can never do this right, like I don't deserve to be loved, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. What all of like when you're starting to say like I am blank, that's shame. When you say I did something wrong, that's guilt. So guilt is just I did something, but shame is I am bad.
Oh, well, a negative thing, because I'm about to say that. Oh, it almost sounds like an affirmation.
No, always negative.
Depending.
We're
Okay.
always negative. So shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad.
You know what? And as devil's advocate, as a student on the other side of this whole teacher professor thing, it's interesting though, because I think the way I remember it, long removed, seems structured in a way though that creates a lot of this perfectionism within us, because I didn't come to a building asking to be graded and judged and told how I rank against others. I came here to learn. And the way school, again, the way I remember it's set up, it doesn't feel like it's set up that way as a whole, or maybe it was intended to, but it does feel more like I'm really here just to see how smart I am compared to these people here. I understand there's a broader, again, vision for it, and I'm reading a book that I'm sure is affecting this, but it's How to Defeat the Devil, and it was in it he touches on how schools should have, or I guess maybe were intended to go to run and designed to help students, but it's in fact doing the opposite. It's creating a lot of the bad habits we see within students. One of the things it talks about is, if you remember when kids are young, there's this idea of they're incredibly excited to talk and engaged. But after getting, whether it's told by a teacher they're wrong and to be quiet if they don't have the right answers and that kind of thing, what we tend to find, and I know this resonated with me, is I stopped raising my hand. For me, initially, it was just my accent. It just didn't necessarily translate as easily. So I was accused of making jokes. So I, eventually just stopped raising my hand because it just didn't seem like I was ever getting the positive feedback from the teacher. And it drifted slowly to the back of the class and, just started to kind of play around and do all this other stuff. And as both been kind of looking into shame, not realizing that I was in shame during those periods where I would now go and hide. And even now as an adult, I can see where there are moments where if I get into a conversation and I feel, I don't want to, it's not an attack. I call it my victim. If I get in my victim mode about something, I retreat. It's like, oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. And I'm quick to hide when I'm in shame. And I've again been blessed to see, because you mentioned awareness is one of the first places. So I'm gonna frame it as I'm blessed to recognize where this also shows up in my business. Before phone calls. I mean, even sometimes, even in just writing the list, the idea of a chicken list is in its like at its core is built around something about these people make me believe they will laugh at what it is I'm doing. Right? Like, think about the idea of a chicken list is built around this fact of, or the belief that this people I'm going to put on this list probably will think less of what it is that I am doing with my business. You know what I mean? So it's funny because we're going to events where we were being trained to tackle that, but I just don't think they talk about why the list is even you know what I mean? Like, why is it that way? There's no one that should think your business, if it's not for them, it's cool, but the idea that there's anyone that's above it is kind of beneath you in a sense, right? Because everyone in some instance, unless you're Elon Musk, and even that brother could use a second or 59th source of income. God knows how many he has now. But you get what I'm saying? It's like I'm sure Elon Musk isn't thinking chickenless. I'd assume. I don't know his personal life, but I'm assuming he can call anybody.
Well, I don't think you're playing devil's advocate. I think you're talking to the system that has been set up from when
Janice, I
you're
love
a
it.
little
There
kid.
you go, Janice. I don't
I
have
don't
a
have a
chicken list. Damn right.
I don't have a chicken list. You have a chicken list.
No, go ahead. Know what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think you're playing devil's advocate. I do think that this education system and the way that it's built is built to, like, yeah, you need to be right, you need to get 100%. Like, why even grade that? I mean, this is all related to the Industrial Revolution. They needed people to sit and to be told when to go to the bathroom, when to do all those things. So it's a part of that system. And that is like another story for another day. So I'm not going to get into that in particular. But it has created a very shame-based way of educating people. So before that way of education, people would be apprentices, right? And you would learn just to learn. You weren't graded. You were inquisitive. You had questions. You wanted to learn about XYZ. And so you found the thing that like you were really passionate about. And then you really became like an apprentice of that particular thing and spent years studying it because you enjoyed it or it brought some sort of fulfillment to you, right? So it's interesting. I don't want to shout them out, but they can't be the only one. So in the undergrad version of, or the undergrad education where I am, they actually don't have grades. Your students don't receive grades. So I always say to our students, like, imagine what it would be like to study what we study in a graduate level, like medical fields. Imagine learning what we learn without being graded. Like, would you learn differently? Would the onus be, I need to learn this because I'm going to actually talk to, so I teach people to become genetic counselors, which typically means you're going to be speaking to a patient within 2 years about very like life impacting things and making life impacting decisions. So like, would your desire to learn be different if it was just, I need to learn everything I possibly can in 2 years, because in 2 years, I'm going to be expected to talk in front of a patient and actually know my ish, you know? Like, would the learning be different? I'm always curious about that. Because at the end of the day, nobody asks, like, when, oh, I don't know if I went away. Did I go? I don't. Okay.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. Nobody asks after they graduate from graduate school. Nobody asks what grade you got to get the job.
Oh yeah.
So in graduate
school, I brought this up
and
with someone as
PhDs,
well.
nobody hires you and they're like, oh, you got a 3.8,
whatever.
Like, we're gonna hire you, right? So like it's just a matter of making sure that people know like the material. You want to make sure that they know it, but then like how are the different ways that you can know it? And then we can start talking about board exams and, you know, for lawyers, right? They have their bar exam, doctors have their exam, right? Like, so the higher the degree, like everybody still has like an exam. So if you ask me, we're getting right back into like another system where people can make money. But that's besides the point. I think ultimately what you're saying, Winston, is that there is a system that has been built that makes money by making people feel like they need to be perfect on a particular level. But to go back to Janice's question, I just really want to answer it really quickly. So one, it's awareness. So if you want to try and flip it and become like a recovering perfectionist, one, say that claim that you're imperfect. 2, you need to work on your shame resilience. To work on your shame resilience, you have to be aware of when you're in shame. You have to have a network of people that you feel comfortable that you can talk to about what your shame is. So essentially share your shame story. It's going to be scary. It requires you to be vulnerable. And the antidote to shame is empathy. If you can find somebody that you can be vulnerable with to share your story and they can actually listen to you with empathy, that is essentially the antidote to that. But it takes time and not everybody is empathic. Yes, that big blooper ahead. I don't.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, no, but it's
And
cool
then
because they know who
and
these
then
are.
the last thing about shame resilience is oh, and the isolation. Don't be alone. You need to connect with people. You can't stay isolated. Um so yeah. Hi Normie. Thank you for coming on the show. You're gonna have to go play in another room now.
No, seriously. You know what I mean?
This is what happens when you have
This is what
children,
your kid
everybody.
when your kid pretends that have you made people yet? Have you made them?
I have
No.
not made any children yet.
So something that I was gonna say, in addition to that, is well, I actually thought for myself where else do I see this idea of perfectionism show up, and it was with clients in during just with fitness workouts and things like that. Sorry guys, leave now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Norman. Well, yeah, this idea of them not wanting to take or progress into a movement for fear of, oh, I'm not going to be able to hit that number, or even the idea of learning certain things because this I'm going to look stupid. Other people in the gym are going to judge me because of how I look while I'm doing something. One of the biggest areas, again, was even just how someone looked. I had a client that would not insisted on working out in a certain area in the gym because it was one less people, less mirrors. So all things that to me, it, well, again, for them, this was a big area of I don't want to look silly. I don't want to look bad in front of other people.
And that's a big shame thing, right? Like not wanting to look bad in front of other people because if people really knew who I was, if they really got to know me, they wouldn't love me. They wouldn't want me around. They would say I'm too fat, too ugly, not good enough, right? Um they would see me for who I really am, and I know that I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, right? Like all those things. That's why he wants to be, or whoever. And like that guy is not the only one, right? Like I'm sure there's a ton of people out there who are listening to this who are like, I could totally relate. I'm going to the corner of the gym. I am not trying to be out here where everybody can see me because like I need to do my thing, but like I'm really not trying to be in front of people right now.
I wish I could remember how it was like for me though. I've been like it's just weird. I may have gone through the same experience, but when you're seeing it from the other side, where you're talking to someone, you're like, nobody here is paying attention to you,
Right.
because that's really this thing. It's almost egotistical, and I'm guilty of this as well. But to assume that this other person's even concerned as much as we believe. Again, these are things we're taught in trainings. It's like the other person is not as concerned. So if you kind of go by the script or some idea of what the script sounds like, you have more of an opportunity to get across to someone with the message you have, about your product or service and so on, than if you just kind of went out there with no real structure. The idea, especially in our relationship marketing, is training people who have not done this before in this skill of sales or sharing, depending on the vernacular your company uses. This idea of sharing this product, service, and so on, without feeling maybe being too intrusive or being too robotic or whatever it may be. But I can't get over the fact that I know there are people who, because they were afraid of how it was going to come across or how they were going to come across, never even tried, got involved. I forget the percentages, but I think it's most companies have 60 to 70% of people who never enroll anyone. You know what I mean? Like it's, and in my mind, at least one person, like if I sign up, in my mind, I can get at least one other person to do it. Like I'm not the only idiot that work. Like for me, again, I didn't believe I could do 4 because I definitely, I got it again. I didn't know about 4 right away, but my day one, the 6 for me was 6 gets me my money back. That's where my number came from. It was, you put 6 people in, you'll make this money back right away. So in my head, it was, I got to get the 6. Or I have to enroll 6 people. But again, I definitely know what it was like when I got my first. It was like, like wow. And I know people that went for months, and I kept saying to myself, man, if I hadn't gotten my 4, I don't know if I would have stuck it out. Man, if I don't know if I'd hit
That's the
that
other
first
thing, right?
rank,
Like,
right?
sorry.
Oh, go for it.
So there's something that happens, right? Like when you have when all of a sudden, like, the actual, like, it happens, right? Like, you believe it happens, and then when it actually happens, like, right? Like, somebody else thinks the way I do, and like, oh, this is great, this is excellent. Then all of a sudden it becomes more real, right? So I get that. Like, I get how that could be, that there's something that, like, it's just like a switch in your brain that's like, okay, all right, this is possible, this is real, I made some money from this, like, it just kind of like changes things. But what's really interesting for me anyway is that no matter how that goes, right? Like, it happens, and it may happen once. And for some people, again, this is just resilience. Some people have more resilience in this area than others. For some people, they'll be like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm onto something. Like, I knew it wasn't just me. Like, there's got to be more people out here. Great. And then there are other people who don't have as much shame resilience. And even though they got one person, maybe even the six, because they're still in a caught up in a shame cycle off of something else. It's not even their business, right? Like, something else that they did in their life. Maybe they got an abortion. Maybe they had an affair. Maybe they stole money from their family. Maybe they're the type of person that says that they're going to do something, but they never follow through, right? Like, they're the person that, like, never follows through. Maybe, I don't know, you get too drunk sometimes, right? Like, whatever it is for you, like, we're all like ashamed of something, right? You're like, you're not there for your kids. Like, that's a big one, actually. People are really, really, people get shamed all the time for being bad parents. So people think I'm a bad parent, right? Like, it's whatever it is, right? Like, there's something out there that
quick solution about that one. Go earn a residual income and leave your job. My bad. Go ahead. Continue.
yes. Oh, well, say that. I mean, that's true. But yes,
Or
go
work
earn a
less
residual
if
income
you
and
don't
then
want to leave your
you'll
job. Work less. Just
right. Well, if you have the residual income, then you don't have to be out
extra
there
couple of
spending,
vacations, that extra 1,000, that
you
extra
don't have to
$5 a month.
be
I'm telling you.
You don't have to spend as much time away from your kids. That's true.
Manchego Bay, here we come.
So anyway, I say all that to say, it's just that if whatever you have done in your life that's outside of your business, if you're wrapped up in shame in that, right, then that just means that when it comes back to your business, you went back to, I'm a bad person, I'm not good enough, I'm this, I'm that, and then it's like, oh, this was so good. I recently heard this. Apparently, Brene Brown like has these really good one-liners. When you're wrapped up in shame, you think that you're not good enough, not worthy, not lovable. So you will hustle for the rest of your life to find value.
Say that again.
You will literally, okay, so
when you're
in shame, right? So like, you're thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough, I'm not a good this, I'm not a good that, like, whatever, I'm not worthy, whatever it is, right? Then you will hustle for your value for the rest of your life, or hustle for your worth for the rest of your life, because you haven't gotten over your shame. So because you're constantly thinking about, and again, it's not, you won't think like, I don't think that way, but like, what happens when you're like alone and by yourself, and what are the things that you say to yourself, right? It's this thing like, oh, well, I'm not really good enough, right? Anyway, even though I got my 6 people, but like, I'm not really like a good person. So I don't know if this is really gonna like work for me, because I'm, like, I really don't deserve something good to happen to me, because like, I'm not really that good, right? Like, I'm not a good person. I'm not worthy enough. So this is my point in saying that. So even if for many people, this is the difference between resilience, right? Some people have a high resilience, and so they're able to get that, that one person, they're like, woohoo, like, I'm great, like, this makes me feel good, like, they're off, they're running, and they're thinking in a more healthy direction. Then you have other people who are spiraling still in their shame, so they have a low shame resilience, and so because they're still stuck thinking those things, they're out there still trying to figure out, like, do I have enough value? And if the answer is no, especially when it comes to your business, because all businesses you have to sell, you're selling something, whether it's you're in a relationship and you're trying to sell yourself as to why you're a good person to be in a relationship with that person, or you're actually selling a service or a product. Like, we are all selling something, right? So whatever it is that you're selling, like, the hustle for your worthiness or your value becomes that much more of a hustle, right? Like, when we think of the hustle, we think of a grind, we think of right? I don't know. To me, it made a lot of sense. Maybe it's not sinking for
No,
other
no, no,
people.
it's not. It's not. Well, I'll speak for myself, guys. Comment. You can throw us up on
Yeah,
Insta,
if
wherever.
that
But
makes sense to you, please let us know.
I'm I'm pretty sure I'm seeing this the wrong way because it's making me somewhat. The emotion is not a positive one because in my mind I'm thinking, why do we have to prove ourselves to others? Why do I have to
You
prove I
don't.
have no
But when
I
you're right.
yeah, I hear you. I want to hear that. But it feels like a lot of everything, including the platform we're using right now, we want more views. We like, I mean, it's all structured to have to. If we don't hit the trending things, I mean, guys, we can talk real with you guys about this. I mean, even just in us learning how to
Yeah, but
market
does that mean
more,
we have no value just because we're not getting the
it's
amount of
not
likes?
about personal value and value to the marketplace. So again, there are levels to this. So if I am somebody who's looking to earn more income, even if we wanted to become more speaker, I mean, the book you're writing, you obviously wanted to sell well. The question then, for one of the questions is will be, well, how much value will this book add to, I think, to whoever the audience is, right? There's a goal, there's an intention of the book. It's not, without giving too much away, but there's an intention for the book, and it'll be the sales over a course of however time is what we use to judge the value of the book, right? Bestsellers and so on and so on. So it feels like even if within yourself, the goal is to constantly get to a place where you recognize your own self-worth, everything outside of that is going to push you in something to judge you on what value do you bring in this area.
It's so interesting that you say that, Winston, because I've gotten
That's
to
what
a
I heard
place.
when you say it.
Well, it's interesting because I've gotten to a place where that's not it. It's if it becomes like New York Times bestseller, most authors will admit that that's like a huge goal of theirs, right? The goal, if I got that, isn't so I could run around and be like, oh, I'm a New York Times bestseller. It's because people will think I have the authority to actually listen to what I'm trying to say. Whatever
And
it takes for people to
well,
be open to hear what I have to say so that way it can help them. That's all. That's all. Whatever barrier can be produced in order to lower people's walls so that way they'll listen to me and potentially be helped by what I have to say. And if not them, maybe someone they know, then I'm here for that.
okay.
But the thing is, you can easily get caught up in that and be like, well, then I have no value if I don't get to be a New York Times bestseller. Like, if that doesn't happen, I failed. I have no value. I'm a failure. I'm not worthy. I shouldn't be out here trying to help people. Like,
Yeah,
like I just
well, that's my point. And to me, I'm saying that it shouldn't have anything to do with any of that. The fact that you may have gotten value from writing the book could be the only thing that needs to, and then whatever happens beyond that, you don't necessarily care. But even in what you're saying, it's like, well, how do you go now and judge what you're suggesting if it does, regardless of whether it hits the New York Times or not? How do you judge what you're saying just now if it ever takes place?
it may not.
Mm.
I've come to grips with that. Like I've come to
Oh,
grips
okay,
with
okay.
I recognize that I want to if I could help a million people, that's the goal. If I can help a million
Oh,
people, like
see, again,
honestly and
so we're
truly
going through
gain a
different things.
better
Well, no,
gain
I'm
about
saying, what if you couldn't help anyone but yourself? I'm saying, is it still not valuable if it helped no one but you?
it's obviously valuable because it helped me. So there's value there because it helped myself.
The numbers you throw out have don't sound like that's what you're saying. You're saying even if it doesn't hit a million or the bestseller, I'm saying, what if it's one? Let's go back to the beginning of it. What if I enroll one person? My one enrolled got me to 4, but I didn't think that I was great for what I did for one. And I can see logistically 1 equaled 300, whatever. And yet in my mind, it still never translated to as I brought value to, and I am only speaking for myself, but just where others may be showing up the same way. Like, you're right, I am going to help one person today, but I don't think many of us think that that's enough impact. You know what I mean? Like, or impact theory. Funny enough, a lot of the guests that he has come on, one of them asked him one day, "What's the point of this show? Like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of you interviewing all these other people?" And his initial answer was, my goal is to, or through his foundation or his impact theories company, our goal is to impact the way people perceive themselves. And in my mind, I immediately thought, well, wow, that's something that you can continue to grow. It's like the vision is large enough to encapsulate other people. And then I thought, but then what necessarily, how do you judge that? Because these people are going to have ebbs and flows, ups and downs. This audience are going to be affected, and so on and so on. And then ultimately it was, well, if somebody doesn't have a vision like that, then, and if it's to your point, you mentioned just even parents just trying to raise their kids. I don't know if a lot of people, they go home thinking, well, I took care of just my kids today. That's enough. I'm enough. Because then if your kid is like, well,
this is exactly
you're not doing a great job, mom.
There's a whole section about this that, again, Brene Brown goes into.
We got to get the book. We got to get the
book. There's a whole section about, like, I'm not exceptional. People are looking to be exceptional or extraordinary, when sometimes just doing the ordinary thing that you're doing, raising your kids, you're feeding your family, the lights are on, you have heat and electricity, like that kind of a thing, is enough. But people think that that's not, that they need something more than that. They need to be extraordinary. They're because, if you look at reality TV show, it's like, there's got to be something even extra, right, about your life or whatever, in order for it to have meaning, in order for it to be enough. Because just being normal or average, God forbid, right? Like
that. There we go. So you're hearing what I'm hearing. Yeah.
So there's a whole thing around that as well. And again, it's it's being aware, right? Who wins by that message? Who wins by that message, by telling you are not enough, you're not, you need to be doing more. Just taking care of your kids isn't enough. You need to be doing more than that. Does anybody financially gain from that message? And I'm pretty sure that there are. And if that's the case, I don't want to, like, this is crazy because this is really meta right now. And that was not meant as a pun, but we are on social media, and social media definitely financially like reaps a benefit from us thinking like we need to have more of an influence or an impact on like thousands of people. Like that's literally like what social media has become recently. And I recognize that we are on social media, and that the social media platform that we are on is called Meta.
Well, that's but I mean, like, but can't we, and guys, hear me out. If this is you, if you're in our industry, we are a part of that in some sense. Like, if, when we were a part of something that helped people travel for a different cost, I had to bring, in my mind, some of the psychological stuff I had to be aware of when I'm talking to someone is, they're not having the peak life experiences that because I'm seeing one of the questions, it goes, who measures, thank you for this, Janice, who measures average? And to me, that's one of the things. So it's like, I'm going to go around saying now that I travel this many times a year, and I'm not saying it was it was maliciously designed this way, but I'm traveling this many times a year and you aren't. And this thing I do can help you catch up with where I am. I mean, in some sense, I'm helping you, but I'm kind of framing it in a sense, in a way where it's, hey, I'm able to do a lot more, whether it's with the extra income
so you frame it differently. My thing is, what do you want? Do you want to travel more?
Well,
I can help you do that. It wasn't
even
like,
in identifying someone's, no. There was never a case of need. It's still pointing out to someone that there's something I'm doing more than you're able to. It's not, it's just what I'm saying. The framework isn't always malicious, but it is something that you are pointing out. My product that I use does this for my skin. It's not that my product doesn't offer the value it's promising. That's not what I'm bringing up here. I'm just saying it seems to me that it seems easy to be like, oh, well, there's this going on and there's this, and you should be aware of it. And I'm saying, yeah, being aware of something and the fact that it's still something, it's like the Matrix. You're still in it, though. So I'm aware everyone around me is plugged into the machines, and yet I'm still in it. And again, for the marketing side of it,
I missed what you're trying to say. To be very specific, because I really want to understand your point. So you're saying that people are out here in shame, but if you're calling shame the Matrix, and they don't even realize that even as they're aware of it, they're not.
That even though they're aware of the shit, no. There isn't anywhere you can get out. That you're out here trying to push your business, market your business, have your business do success, And in doing so, you may be in part taking part in having others feel a way about themselves as you do this.
You think that that's how everybody thinks, or that's how some people think?
No, that we're doing it without our knowledge, that we are a part of something that we're also sitting here having a conversation about. like we are literally a part of the thing we are talking about.
And
Unbeknownst to
I
us
don't
or
see it that
unbeknownst to
way.
us. Okay, and that's what I'm
I
saying.
don't see
And
it that
that's
way.
fair, except I'm not asking whether you perceive it that way, but the people you're marketing to perceives it that way. The people that get you're asking who benefits from the thing you said earlier. Who benefits from recognizing these gaps in your life? Who benefits from pointing out that there's is that part, did I catch that part earlier? Who benefits from that? And I'm suggesting that even with what we were doing before, I benefited from understanding that there was a gap in your experience culture in life. Like you weren't having peak life experiences, something I'm here to help you do. I'm here to help you do that, but I am also here to highlight that you are having this experience. It's not great, and I can help
Do
you.
you feel that that's shaming people by pointing
I
out
don't
that
know
there's
how,
something
but
within
I
you?
don't know how it comes across. Again, if for fitness, if I'm gonna go up to somebody, I'm not gonna hit them with, "Hey, you're 20 pounds overweight." I get the relationship. They're gonna come to me and go, "Hey, I'm 20 pounds overweight." The conversation may be different based on the need, but I may then go into, well, here, my client here, and I'm not saying people do this, but hey, my client here lost 15 pounds from now doing this, from training with me this much time. I'm pointing out an actual fact.
Right.
But in doing that, could I be adding to you feeling shame?
Someone who, here's the thing, someone who is in, who
Wait,
has
before you do,
low
does
shame
that make
resilience.
sense? Before
Yeah,
you,
sorry. Yes,
oh,
I
okay.
understood what you were saying.
All right,
Sorry.
go.
Yes,
Go
I
now.
understand that. So someone who is in shame, who has a low shame resilience, or maybe in a shame thinking spiral,
Yes.
there's nothing that you could do to prevent them from because they're already thinking that. Right? Like they're already thinking, I'm awful, I'm the fat slob. And this, I'll use the same personal training example.
Yeah.
We'll use that same example for this case. But if they're already thinking that about themselves, like, oh, like I don't even know if I should do this, but fine, like this is something I want to do because like I'm just an awful person, like, whatever that is in their head, right? That they're thinking, then whatever you say, you're never gonna know what it is that you're saying that's gonna like trigger that up some more or make that go down. The only thing that you can do is try and be as empathic as possible, because we all know that empathy is the antidote to shame. So if there's a way in which you talk to someone and you're in, so empathy is not sympathy. It's not to be like, oh, I feel so bad for you. That's sympathy and only makes yourself feel better. Empathy is to get into that place with them and be like, I know what it feels like to not feel like you're worthy. I know what it feels like to feel like you're not even worthy to have a personal trainer work with you. And like, that sucks. Like, I get it. But I'm here to tell you it's possible. You have a goal. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to work with you. And I believe you are worth it. I believe you're worth it. Your family's worth it for you to be as healthy as you can be.
Okay, I love that. Sorry, I wasn't clear before. No. Again, I agree. I don't believe everyone's ill intent with whatever they're doing. That wasn't my point. It was just that. How do I know if what I'm sharing could be causing some of the things that we're talking about? And I know we're gonna wrap up soon. So
we're way
I
out
see
of time.
both sides. I know both sides of this. Many people don't have the massive number of success in the business model of relationship marketing, but because of their involvement have excelled in other ways. Completely agree. I love our industry and what it trains us to do.
Thank you, Brittany. I
And
completely
then
agree.
definitely. No, go. And then I'll read Genesis.
No, I was just gonna say, if it wasn't for our industry, I don't think I would have done
for
my
sure.
deep dive into perfectionism and shame and all that other stuff. So
Written books, created a YouTube. Yeah, let's keep it real. All right. Well, I gotta be picking up weights. You'd be at a class. Let's all right. So Janice, there's a productive way to introduce an offering that gives them something they currently don't have. And again, I love that. I think you're tying in what Janelle was saying, Janice. I do believe that, and that's as responsible relationship marketer, it is our duty to get to that level. Because I do agree that people who don't do what we do well, including maybe us, have messed it up for some others because we were not educated on how to do this work in this industry well. We didn't know what to say. I definitely have been to presentations where I was promised the world. I was told Maserati by next week, so there are people who do things unethically. And that to me was poking at the fact that I wasn't driving a car that this person thought that I would find value in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I definitely agree. I agree with Janelle. Sad people will always find a way to be sad. Good point here. Shame people will always find a way to be ashamed. We definitely gonna have to revisit this because I'm gonna be like, and he's back. That's my
Well, yeah. I mean, so that to your point, Janice, sad people always find a way to be sad. Shame people always find a way to be shamed. And yet, if we know that the antidote is empathy, then we can try to be empathic when we speak to other people. Just like you don't know what other people are going through, right? Nobody knows what somebody else is going through. So if we can continue to be empathic with ourselves and with others, I think that will help, and that will probably gain you, if not a customer, then a business partner for life if you can empathize with them.
Yeah,
that can become a very powerful tool, in your tool belt to really like work with people. But that's the thing with what we do. We're relationship marketers. You have to create relationships, and empathy is one of the biggest ways to do that. Okay, I'm just going to wrap it up and say, like, the third thing to do for perfectionism is having empathy with yourself, which is ironic because that's kind of how we ended up, is like having empathy with others. But the third way to help with your perfectionism to essentially reduce it is to have empathy with yourself.
Sorry about that. We should close it down because his attention span's over. It's over.
All right. Well then. So thank you everybody who came on. If you're on IG, we love to have you on here. Hopefully we'll be doing more of these. If you're on YouTube, normally we go into overtime. So normally we only do this for 25 minutes. And then we go take a deeper dive on overtime, which you can find on Patreon. So if you become one of our community members on Patreon for either 10, 25 or $50, then you can watch overtime there. And what's really cool is you get a lot of cool things depending on which community member option you choose. And we just look forward to continued conversations. So that being said, thank you all again. As always, remember you deserve
the good life. Say that. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. Say bye. Bye. Yo, you are an absolute madman.